Well, the MPC certainly believes that economic recovery still remains fragile and is in need of a boost. We've been focused completely on the banking sector over the last couple of weeks, but let's focus on the oil sector today and the potential that lies in that space. I mean, what's your view on the oil sector right now?
Hi, Alishia. Good morning. I'm so sorry. I barely made out what you just said. Can you repeat the question?
Just looking at the oil sector specifically, what are you making of developments there, and what's your view on the oil sector right now?
To be candid with you, the oil sector is plagued with a lot of uncertainty at the moment. I mean, on the one hand, we've got the deregulation that, as far as we're concerned, it's a good thing in the long term for the sector. I mean, look at what's happened to the telecom sector that's been fully deregulated. We expect that with the deregulation bill, that a lot of foreign interest will come into the sector, capacity will be increased, new refineries open and developed, and eventually production will go up. Whereas in the short term, as is typical of most Nigerian oil marketers, what you will find is there'll be long queues for petrol over the next few weeks, with people waiting to see how high the price will go and trying to hold their petrol not to sell. So there'll be a lot of destabilization to the economy in the short term. On the other hand, we've got the petroleum bill, which, as far as the oil operators are concerned, they don't know what's happening today or tomorrow. I mean, it makes sense that you want to try and make the sector a lot more transparent and try and put some structure into the sector. But is it a double taxation you're trying to do? Is it two different taxes? There's so much uncertainty there. Nothing's been explained thoroughly to these people. Who's going to run things? The modalities of operations have not been explained. There is, in long and short of it, there's a lot of uncertainty going on in the sector today.
Well, with that uncertainty and the fact that we're also uncertainty about where investment ties are going to be forged moving forward, whether we're looking at a case of West versus East at this stage, given all that uncertainty, does it come as a surprise to you that we've got players like Oando, like Nigeria Sevens Energy, Chevron, all increasing their production and capacity right now?
Well, not exactly. I mean, the Oandos, the Shells, etc., are in it to make, a buck, so to speak. So it is expected that the more you produce, the more profit you stand to make. And while the uncertainty is still plagues, what I'll expect is that the incumbents will continue their operations at, optimal levels. What the uncertainty will affect is new entrants into the market. For example, with the FG's invitation of the Chinese, who've had licenses since 2004 to 2005, you can see their hesitation to start things in the market until they have clarity as to where things stand. So I expect the uncertainties affect more new entrants in the market, both international and local entrants, as opposed to the local, to the already established operators.
Well, many seeming to think that these companies are milking the sector for everything it's worth before we see any fundamental shifts in that economic environment. Let's hone in on a few of the players here, because Shell seems to be yielding positive results with operating costs reduced by $1 billion in the first 9 months, around 5,000 jobs being cut, however. So how are you viewing the investment merit in Shell right now?
I think Shell is also in a peculiar case with the federal government. The federal government obviously wants a bit more out of the JV with Shell. Shell, in the same vein, it's not ready to relinquish more than they already have. So with Shell in particular, there is so much going on there, and apparently with contracts changing, every 5 minutes, you can understand where they'll have to cut back until they know for certain what the FG stance is going to be. So there's still a lot of negotiation between the FG and Shell, and there's not been a landing that's been reached or communicated to the public just yet.
Shell has also been pretty aggressive in its vows to fight off the Chinese over Nigerian oil. Let's move over to Mobil. It seems to be on the rebound, but we've got to note that a couple of stocks in the sector have lost substantial value over the past few months and should see a depression in the comparative outlook for a stock like Mobil, which has had very low volatility. What's your view on Mobil in comparison to some of the other major players in the sector?
I'll tell you what it is. With the oil sector is an interesting one in the market. You do know that the banking, for instance, or even insurance, banking and insurance combined make up the bulk of the market. In the last 18 months, since the market has peaked, that interest has shifted from, the more expensive stocks like the Shells, the Mobiles, the Texacos, the Mobiles in the market, to the cheaper stocks, and the services area of banking and insurance in particular that are perceived to be a lot cheaper and a lot more undervalued have had much more interest than the oil sector. I don't see much shift in that because, unfortunately, the way Nigerian investors think is not typical of most international investors. And today, in fact, we even have more international investors in the market who are focusing more on the seemingly undervalued sectors, being the banking and the insurance, as opposed to the real sector, for example.